Many consider the Galarian starter trio the worst Pokemon starters to date, and Inteleon is probably my least favorite of the three. Its concept is quite good, but like Rillaboom and Cinderace, the execution just feels a bit dry. Hello and welcome to A Clown Stole the Pen, where I pretend to be a better artist than the guys behind the biggest media franchise in the world. Today we're redesigning Inteleon. Now, the design you see me sketching right now is not actually the final draft, as I drew this first draft without considering things like making it actually look like a Pokemon, or good. The tricky thing for me is I'm used to drawing people and all the muscles inside of them, but Pokemon are built like stuffed animals with mostly straight lines making up their limbs and torsos. I've never attempted the Ken Sugimori art style before and didn't for this first draft. Once I got to shading, however, I realized there was a small issue. See, I don't shade my art that often. Most of the time I'm sketching poses or drawing character sheets. If you haven't drawn character sheets before, you don't want to polish them a lot, if at all, as their purpose is readability, not to look snazzy. The last drawing I rendered was this pic of Kaido I drew to be my wallpaper, and my quote-unquote polishing was just me befungling around, smacking textures onto everything and adding more light sources. I've forgotten how I used to shade my art, so I figured if I have to relearn, I might as well make it similar to the Pokemon art style while I'm here. Going into this redesign, I knew I wanted to change its shape. I don't know if it's just me, but Inteleon looks like their spine has been kicked in, forcing them to permanently stand like a twink. Stiffness is the last thing you want in a design that's supposed to be flexible, and while seeing it in motion has certainly helped, I still can't shake the feeling it has a hard time moving. It was tricky at first. I wanted to radically change the design, meaning I didn't have anything to start with. For inspiration, I looked to their previous two Evos as well as this guy's prediction for a Sobble evolution, which was a large inspiration for this design altogether. I knew I wanted to keep the colors similar to the original, and I also tinkered with giving a slight rainbow hue to his cloak but ended up removing it in the end. When new starters are revealed, what their final Evos will be is a common discussion amongst the community. Game Freak has always been good about subverting what we expect from them, and part of how they do this stems from a little something I call red herring gimmicks. For example, Froakie and Frogadier both have bubbles at the core of their designs while Greninja doesn't have anything to do with them. This is quirky and all, however it may lead to some ideas not making it over less interesting alternatives. Case in point, Sobble's ability to turn invisible. Unfortunately, it gets dropped immediately, which is odd considering it fits the secret agent theme perfectly. I wanted to bring it back for my design, so I gave Inteleon a cloak made by filling its shed skin with water and manipulating said water to reflect light, making Inteleon invisible. While arguably all starters have a uniting theme, like the Alola starters being based around the circus, I would like to give my redesigns a second theme more based on ideas rather than things. For example, when I get around to redesigning the Kanto starters, their secondary theme is going to be learning to control one's own internal power. For the Galar starters, I want to make it reusing something to create something new, hence the shed skin. The invisibility cloak may also be interpreted as a reference to Harry Potter, just to squeeze in a little more British into the James Bond lizard. Who knows, maybe I'll incorporate the other two Deathly Hallows into the Cinderace and Rillaboom designs. Unfortunately, the lizard is significantly less James Bond, although I did give him a little droplet shape reminiscent of a tie, and the second draft has a fancy color to go with it. Now, I might not hate Inteleon, but if I was driving down the road and saw Drizzile, I would 100% run it over. Inteleon's crest looks like a continuation of Sobble's crest, but Drizzile doesn't have that at all, instead being replaced with this oddly thick banana hair thing. I like it when Pokemon evolve to look totally different just as much as the next guy, but Drizzile doesn't matter to Inteleon's design at all. Nothing it introduces as the second stage carries over except for the implied gloves and having eyelids, oh how important. My design takes from the original hair thingy to make up the shape of the cloak. I struggled with his toes for a long while, and only at the end did I realize they looked bad because I drew them at the wrong angle. I'm still not totally sold on his crest going all the way up to his head. Seems like it might get in the way of the hood, but I think it's fine. There was a third draft I made before the two you see me drawing in this video. I drew it on paper, which is why I didn't record it, and then colored it on my phone. The color scheme was more similar to this, and while it isn't bad, it looks sort of like it has a diaper. I also wanted the belly to connect to the tail more cohesively. I would have made their collar white if I had more white elsewhere on the design, but I'm quite the stickler when it comes to using as few colors as possible. Typically in a design, the fewer colors the better, and the colors you do choose should be different enough from each other so they pop. A good way to tell if your colors are different enough is to turn everything grayscale. If two colors next to each other look the same when gray, consider making one of them lighter or darker. This isn't a necessary thing, so don't feel forced to do this for every design, but it can help if something feels off. The time lapse is almost over, but unfortunately, I've run out of things to talk about. So in the meantime, just listen to this song I illegally downloaded on my computer. And there you have it, Inteleon, the secret agent Pokemon. Bending the water within their shed skin they now wear as a cloak, Inteleon can become virtually invisible by redirecting light around them. They are masters of precision, able to hit Cramorant 5,000 feet in the air without looking with a water bullet from their fingers. While my imitation of the Pokemon art style still needs some fine-tuning, I'm quite happy with how Inteleon came out. I changed its stat distribution a bit to hopefully make it a bit better, as well as giving it the Dark type. I would imagine they would learn moves like Nasty Plot, Calm Mind, Flash Cannon, Mirror Coat, Shed Tail, maybe even Aura Sphere, stuff like that. I would make Snipe Shot basically the same as Flower Trick, always hits, always crits, but a special Water type move instead of a physical Grass move. An alternative signature move would be a Protect-like one that has all attacks miss Inteleon that turn, raising its evasiveness for every attack directed towards it. I was originally going to give it a unique hidden ability, something along the lines of raising Inteleon's evasiveness when hit with a water type move or in the rain, but it was too situational and gimmicky, not to mention annoying to fight. I ended up going with Illusion because it is still gimmicky, but it's a bit more usable and skill-based. Next, I plan on redesigning Cinderace or Rillaboom, not sure which one yet. They'll probably take a little longer for me to make as I went into this design already knowing what I wanted to do. I have yet to cook up anything substantial for the other two. By the way, I'm going to be redesigning things beyond Pokemon, so don't freak out one day if I upload a Batman redesign out of nowhere. Subscribe, I guess, like if you liked it, and dislike it if you're a bad person. If there was anything you would have done differently, feel free to leave it in the comment section below, and I will see you later. Bye-bye!